On today's show, Dwyane Wade inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, what he meant to the Miami Heat organization, what he continues to mean to the Heat, some of the greatest moments from throughout his career, the best moments from his Hall of Fame induction speech, all of that and so much more coming right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long, because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every single time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every single victory. Right now, we can take a look at the odds to win Super Bowl 58. The Kansas City Chiefs, the favorites at plus 600. Philadelphia Eagles right behind them at plus 800. Then rounding out the top five favorites, you got the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, and San Francisco 49ers all at plus 1,000 a piece. You can use your bonus bets on anything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Heat, Wes Goldberg. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Heat. Here to discuss, there is a stacked 2023 Hall of Fame inductee class, and right at the forefront of this class, Dwyane Wade, Miami Heat legend. Now, Wes, before we even get to the Hall of Fame induction speech and so many of the special moments of that evening, earlier this week, we had Pat Riley go on record to say that Dwyane Wade is the greatest player to have ever worn a Miami Heat jersey. And when you think about just the landscape of the NBA, right, 30 teams, that means there can only be 30 players who have been the best player to play for a franchise. What does that say about Dwyane Wade and who he is and what he has done for the Miami Heat?
He brought winning to the Miami Heat. He brought winning to Miami, you could argue, given the way that the entire sports landscape was in the early 2000s when he was a rookie, lifting that team surprisingly to the playoffs as a rookie, and then they make the big Shaquille O'Neal trade the next summer, and of course they win the championship 2 years later in 2006, the first championship in franchise history. Dwyane Wade was the Finals MVP. He put together, in my book, the greatest Finals performance ever, not just for the Heat, in NBA history. So he showed that the Miami Heat could be more than what they were in the late 90s, which was a very competitive, tough team to play with Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway. We all, those Heat Knicks game series in the playoffs were legendarily brutal, but the Heat were not winning. They were not winning championships. And Dwyane Wade was the player that turned them into a championship type organization. And the Heat have never won a championship without Dwyane Wade. And there's no doubt that he's the greatest player in franchise history. You could argue that LeBron James was better at his peak in a Miami Heat uniform. And if you want to argue that, go ahead and argue that. But when you consider everything that Dwyane Wade has done for the organization, there's no doubt he's the greatest player in franchise history.
Now we get to Hall of Fame night. We had so many touching moments, including Dwyane attributing his, achievement of making it to the Hall to his father, which led to this incredible moment near the end.
This one is for my father. I love you, and I'm thankful for you.
I love you too, man.
We in the Hall of Fame, dog.
Leave it to D-Wade to give us a Hall of Fame speech filled with highlight moments, just like he gave us a career filled with highlight level play. What were some of your favorite moments throughout the evening from D-Wade?
Number one, the clip you just played. I mean, how is that not relatable? I mean, not the part about being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, but how is that like just a father-son moment, or just a moment, like a bond with your parent or a loved one even? Like, it's an incredibly relatable thing that he did. And for him, those were the last words of his whole speech. We're in the Hall of Fame, dog, to his dad. Sharing that moment with him, I think says a lot about who Dwyane Wade was as a player. Throughout the weekend, he talked a lot about the teammates and the people that helped him get to that point, obviously, and throughout his career. But even during his speech, taking about 45 seconds to just start listing off teammates all the way back to his days at Marquette, teammates, coaches, and all these other people that came through his basketball life. And what struck me, Jackson, about his speech was how unselfish everything was. And you compare that to his hero, Michael Jordan, who, look, best player of all time, made a complete fool of himself during his Basketball Hall of Fame speech, used it as almost a roast against anybody who came through his basketball life, kind of just bringing up old stuff. And that was basically Michael Jordan's thing. Dwyane Wade went the exact opposite approach. And in that respect, his Hall of Fame speech was greater than his hero's Hall of Fame speech. And I think it also says a lot about how he's going to age and how he's going to be appreciated in post-retirement. He still has bonds, and he's so close to so many people that he played with. And again, you compare that to his hero, Michael Jordan, who just seems so desperately alone at these times. And it doesn't even get along with Scottie Pippen anymore, quite famously, right? His absolute running mate. Like, LeBron is still best friends. Oh, I'm sorry. Dwyane Wade is still best friends with LeBron, with Chris Bosh, with all these guys who, that he won championships with and played with. So Dwyane Wade's career was obviously one of the greatest ever, the greatest in Miami Heat history, the first Miami drafted player to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is a big deal and a point of pride for him. But I think his retirement is going to be great, and this was kind of a sign of that.
I thought it was also really cool to have Allen Iverson be his, presenter for the award. Just the ties between those two guys, the way that AI has embraced so much of the younger generation and really just loving and supporting them since his retirement, right? He's just been this source of wisdom and knowledge for so many different guys, both obviously through their playing career, having played alongside each other in the NBA, but then in his post-retirement era as well. So that was a nice touch, I think, between him and AI. When you look back at Wade's career, Wes, there's so many different iconic moments to choose from, but what are a couple that immediately jump to the forefront of your mind as the absolute pinnacle, the highlight of Wade's career? Just either standalone plays or moments. It doesn't even have to be something from the basketball court if there's something off the court.
Well, certainly the 2006 finals stands out among everything else, and then him grabbing that rebound and launching it into the rafters to put the final rebound on top of that dominant performance that he had put together, not just in that game 6 to eliminate the Dallas Mavericks and complete 4 straight wins to win that series, but I think of that. I think of the moment where he's sitting on stage with Chris Bosh and LeBron James during that rally for fans, by the way, in 2010 when the big three got together. I think about that. I think about when he came back in 2019, famously coming back from that trade from the Cleveland Cavaliers for a second-round pick, and willingly came off the bench, right? And for Goran Dragic and Dion Waiters was just coming off the bench for that team. And Josh Richardson. And so he comes off the bench for that team, and then he has that game winner against the Golden State Warriors, like the peak Golden State, the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Golden State Warriors. And I think about seeing Steph's face when Dwyane Wade hit that game winner and just him laughing, just shaking his head, just being like that. And like talking to Warriors players after that game, just being like, yeah, that's what legends do. They do that, regardless of what their age is. Cause obviously he was past his prime at that point. Dwyane Wade was. So there's so many moments, but for me personally, Jackson, like he's the reason I do what I do now. Like he is like, I loved sports before Dwyane Wade. I loved the Miami Heat before Dwyane Wade, but he's what challenged what I thought basketball could be in this market. He is what drew me to covering the sport as opposed to just wanting to watch the sport and appreciate the wins. And for that, like, I'm not the only person who could say they have a career in this field because of Dwyane Wade, right? Countless people from local markets here, beat writers at newspapers and things like that, get the big ESPN break or something like that. We on Locked On Heat, we're talking with Israel Gutierrez and George Sedano, right? Who are, big names in the sports media market. They credit Dwyane Wade for the big jumps that they made from sort of Sedano, from covering the Miami Heat as the Heat radio guy. Israel Gutierrez covering them from the Miami Herald, getting the ESPN promotion during the Big Three era. Like when a sports figure comes into your market, like Dwyane Wade, like Kobe Bryant, like Tiger Woods, like whoever it might be, Derek Jeter, like those players, like what they mean to the market, it's so
they
impactful.
elevate everybody around them, not just the guys on the court with them. Yeah,
exactly. And so I he was a game changer in South Florida, no doubt about it.
Man, for more on Dwyane Wade's legendary Hall of Fame career, you've got to go check out Locked on Heat. They did a whole build up to the induction into the Hall of Fame, a fantastic Dwyane Wade week over there. And of course, for everything else going on with the Miami Heat this offseason, go check them out over at Locked on Heat. Wes, I appreciate you stopping by Locked on NBA with me.
Thanks for having me, man.